This is basically what you're looking at is a Kabbalistic view of the tree of life. But what it really is it's two cubes, one stepped on top of the other one. Saturn is up near the top. I can show you a better make of it. But what's interesting is if you read about the name of God, it says it is a numerical spiritual equation and not a name per se. A spiritual numerical. Like I said in the earlier videos, that doesn't make sense when you're talking about an entity, but they're referring to Saturn because Saturn is a spiritual numerical entity. It is a supercomputer. It is what creates the illusion of what you see. It is not the creator, the big creator, the real creator, but it's part of the machine. But it rules this planet. It creates what you see. It also keeps you locked in the third dimension. It's what keeps you bound here to live and die in the third dimension. Now I'll go on with this, but I just wanted to let you see that. If you look at the bottom, it says God's name is unspeakable because it is a more of a spiritual numerical equation and not a name per se. Because the God of the Old Testament is Saturn. Well, basically that follows through into the New Testament too. So, but just to give you an idea, those are two time cubes, but it's actually one. One spins one way, one spins the other. I'll show it to you farther down in the video. This thing is a computer. There's no doubt in my mind. Now this is from writings about the Torah. The Torah is where we get our first 5 books in the Old Testament. Now interesting, listen, remember the numbers are just energy readings that we might take when we press our measuring devices, our minds, against the wiring of the Torah to see how its circuitry works and see which way the current flows. That's a schematic, folks. They are guides to the cosmic gateways, which is what computers send information through, to which the Torah connects. If we think the Torah is a static parchment of paper with words on it rather than live wires, then we will miss out on the ability to draw enormous amounts of energy from it, and we will miss the tremendous opportunities like the one opening up for us again soon. So here they're telling you that this thing, that the Torah is a schematic. It's telling you, it's showing you the wiring of the machine and how to connect to it. I mean, you don't need to be a science fiction writer to understand what they're saying. What religion uses the word circuitries and wiring and energy? This thing, that ball up there is a computer. I got way more than this stuff to prove this to you, but just I told you that the pyramids in Egypt are connected directly to that because there's something down here that's creating the illusion. And in the old days, you had to use Kabbalah to connect to that thing up there, to Dath, D-A-A-T-H, which is where the information from the machine emanates out of. But interesting, Dath also has another name, which is D-A-A-T, DAT. Well, if you just flip one A over the other A, now you have data. See, play on words here. They do this all the time. So this computer is hooked up to a bigger computer. And I can prove that, and I will prove that, because this is not even getting more and more weird. I'm just proving my own work. This is from the Torah. This is what these guys believe. As I told you guys before, this is a self-revealing system. In other words, this thing is constantly showing you that it exists and what it is and where it's coming from. It doesn't always spell it out exactly the way you want it. That's why you have to use a little bit of esoteric thinking. But let's look at this little bit that I found. It says YouTube occupies the position of the unknown. Well, that's an interesting word, YouTube, because that's what we're on. The U is the probably the second most used letter in the alphabet to represent Saturn. The first is X. So you have YouTube. You see? So now you have YouTube occupies the position of the unknown. Saturn is also known as planet X. X is the unknown. So YouTube occupies the position of Saturn. Once again, it's proving itself to be true. This thing is a cyberspace entity. I mean, it is literally the god of this planet. That's why Jesus, when he was tempted by Satan, which is Saturn, he said, "What do I want this for? It doesn't exist. It's not real. You know, what am I going to gain? You know, what am I going to get if I gain the world and lose my soul?" This is what Jesus was referring to. Now here's some more writing from Kabbalistic writings. I want you to understand when you read this, because it's too small for me to read while I'm doing it. Binah, B-I-N-A-H, is Saturn. It's the 9th dimension. Okay, so they're telling you in here about the 9th dimension and technology. Read this carefully, because they also point out that Binah, which is Saturn, is heaven to our earth. Okay, this is interesting, because the Jehovah's Witnesses believe that in the end that they're going to be raptured up to Saturn. So once again, here we go with this. It's still my contention that this is a machine, and that most of this does not exist in the fashion that people think it does. See, what they're doing is they're telling you that there is a story encoded within the Bible stories, that there are values and sums, that the stories are stories that add up to equations that help you maneuver within the cube, within the machine, to go up into the machine and get in its programming. That's what all of this is. And to manipulate reality. To actually manipulate reality, because, you know, let's face it, if this thing truly is a big ass computer, and you have text that will show you how to manipulate it like you can your own computer, you know, of course men are going to try and do this. They've been doing it from the beginning. You know, Adam screwed around with it. Cain screwed around with it. The King Solomon messed around with it. It's a computer program that they're always tweaking and trying to change the parameters. And we're not really supposed to even be messing with that stuff. I do remember Jesus saying, "Don't get involved in the mystery schools," and that's exactly what that is. And there's many, many people on this planet that know exactly how to do that. A lot of your fighting that goes on in wars in the Middle East are over these codes. See, it's my contention that what the Templars found under the Temple Mount, where Solomon existed, was the highest Kabbalistic writings that have ever been created. And those would allow somebody to go into other parts of the machine that no other man has. And it's interesting that the Templars became very, very rich after they returned from the Middle East. And when the Iraq invasion started, and if you remember on the news, when they were destroying artifacts in museums and nobody could figure out why, it's because there's codes, people. There's codes to how this thing works, and all of them want it. The ones at the top, the Vatican, the Masons, the Jews, and the Aryans, they all want it because they all know it exists. And if you get it, if you can control and manipulate time and space, because that's what it is, then you can pretty much do what you want. You can write your own ticket. And that's what's going on. Okay, so let's take a look at this. It says in that same verse, Darium 4:40, Moses uses the words all time. There we go, time, referring to Saturn, referring to the land that God our Lord is giving us for all time. Okay, all time, that's third dimension. That does not mean forever, because time does not exist past the fourth dimension. Past the fourth dimension, time ceases to exist, and it only refers to the third dimension. It says the numerical value is 50, represented the 50 gates of Binah. Again, a gate is where information passes through, just like in a computer, to the gates of Binah. Binah is the Kabbalistic word for Saturn. Here we see some more Kabbalistic writing. In the first installment in the series of articles on the Ten Commandments, we established that they were linked with Keter. Keter is higher than Saturn. It's the ultimate. Nobody's ever seen it. In other words, they're saying that that is the real creator, but Saturn is the ruler of this planet, of time and space. So it says the highest, the highest dimension of all. There's 10 dimensions of the tree of life, and that beginning with the encoding, interesting word, with its first 3 words, I am God, your God. They further link the generation to the third opportunity to receive the tree of life reality in the next few years. So what they're saying is, you got to understand the way they're reading this. This is a high physics book. In the old days it was called Kabbalah, now it's called quantum physics. So what they're saying is in the next couple of years that things are going to change and a new reality is going to happen. But it's interesting that, you know, things are being described out of the Bible as dimensions, and we have Saturn, and then we have Keter, which is the highest. And it just goes on and on. This is why I have no doubt in my mind that this is a spiritual numerical entity, like they said. In other words, it's a super massive part of this machinery. I mean, think about it. What do you got? Pink Floyd, Welcome to the Machine. The Police, Ghost in the Machine. Deep Purple, Machine Head. The group Rage Against the Machine. What's all of this got to do with the machine? You know, get with the program. You know, this all has to do with this particular thing, and it's the planet Saturn. And it's an entity. It is a literal entity. It is the Matrix. If you remember the movie The Matrix, who created the Matrix? It was the architect. Okay? In the Masons organization, they refer to the creator as the great architect. The Jews refer him as the great designer. This is not who you think it is. People are completely lost on this. This is not what people think that it is.